Hello, we're going to go ahead and demonstrate a class 5 amalgam restoration. First thing I'm going to do is take a good look at the prep and get that image of the width and the height in my head so that when I overfill the prep, I'm going to know basically where the prep was so that when I'm burnishing and then go to carve, I don't leave additional amalgam on the tooth where it doesn't belong. So I'm getting a good look at this. And then I'm going to try my condenser in there to make sure that it fits everywhere within the prep. So if I were to try to put this condenser in there, it doesn't fit into the prep. So this side is great once I've overfilled the prep to pack it all around the cava surface margin, but I have to use the smaller end in order to pack it into the prep, to the axial wall and into the line angles. Okay, so now that I have those initial tests taken care of, I'm going to go ahead and mix my amalgam. You want to make sure that your amalgam mixes properly and that it is not too dry and crumbly or excessively wet. So you want like a velvety, slightly shiny mix. If you don't have the mix quite right, then you're going to have a hard time, finishing your prep the way that it should be finished. I'm going to pack both sides of the amalgam carrier in there. And then when I go to insert this, I'm going to squeeze slowly and drag it along the prep and push. You can use your other finger to kind of push that in there. And then I want to use my smaller condenser and make sure that I condense that in. And you do want to use some pressure when you're condensing it. You got to get it to go into the wall, and you want to condense up, you want to condense down, and keep trying to push your material back into the prep. Sorry to keep shaking the camera. Have to keep it kind of close in order for you guys to see well. So once you've packed this, I'm going to put another layer in there. So what I see some people doing is they just, push the whole amount in one area and then it basically just falls down. So try to only condense a little bit right where you need it. You want to hold your jaw still when you're working on these Tipidonts so that it's not continually moving when you're trying to apply pressure. So that's overfilled. I'm going to just do one more just to make sure it's overfilled enough, because once I start carving I can't really add any more to it, so I want to make sure that I have enough in there. And wipe this off of the tooth. Use your large condenser again to kind of pat it all around where the cavo surface margin is, and then angle upward to where your gingival wall is, and then condense the mesial wall. Alright, so that should be pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is you can actually use your Explorer. You can use your Explorer to carve. I'm not sure if I use this suction, we'll have to see if it's going to be in the way. If it is, then I won't use it, but I think you'll be able to see it. Alright, so when I'm carving, I'm going to use 5 different motions, and when I carve, I'm going to do the occlusal wall first, and I'm going to make sure that the point is flared out towards the middle of this restoration. And I'm basically concentrating right now on the occlusal wall, okay? So then I'm going to adapt this Explorer tip to the tooth. Make sure that you don't have this into the prepped area at all, but I'm adapting it to the tooth, and I'm flaring out the middle part of my Explorer. So by doing this, I'm leaving an area in the middle that's kind of pointed, okay? So I have this tip of my Explorer flared out here. Now I put the tip down here, and I'm using like the middle of the Explorer, and then I'm going to go very, very carefully back and forth to burnish the mesial and the distal wall. And then this is what they call freehand. So this is carving freehand, meaning your Explorer is not adapted to the tooth anywhere, which normally is suggested that you adapt your instrument to the tooth, excuse me. But the only place you should not adapt it is that middle third, the middle of your height of contour. So what we just created there was a height of contour that naturally would be there in that tooth had it not been drilled away. I'm going to blow a little air there. Okay. And now it's important to get your mirror and check the height of contour from the side view. So you put your mirror in there and you look at it from the side. And you want to see if it's sticking out too far. You want it to be a natural height of contour. So if it seems like it's sticking out too far, you can always remove a little bit more of the height, but your Explorer, you want it to go right down over, and then here you don't want it to stop when it hits the filling like this is, okay? So your Explorer is not a carver, but as long as this material is still soft enough, you can shave, as you can see, you can shave a little bit of that height off down at the gingival wall, okay, without going to Hollenbach carver. So look at that again. You want to make sure that the whole entire restoration looks nice and smooth, and you want to make sure that from the gums up, your instrument just glides right over. It's not getting caught on like a big hump of amalgam, okay? So everything should be nice and sealed. Right now I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a rinse. Little blast of air, water. Okay, I'm going to check it again from the profile view. So let's see if we can see it in there. So you can clearly see that, you know, it does have some contour to it. And what I want to show you is, if this were completely flat, that's what most people end up doing if they have their instrument touching the tooth down here and the tooth up here at the same time, and they swipe their instrument straight across. You're going to flatten your filling out, and you won't have this nice roundness, okay, this height of contour there. So how you can check for that is if you put your instrument from your tooth here onto the height of that filling, and you can see that the tip of your explorer is sticking out away from the restoration, okay? Then in order for me to contact the tooth and the filling here, you should see that the explorer is angled out away towards the middle. So I'm pretty happy with this restoration. The contour, the cavo surface margins, but the instrument that you want to use if your restoration is starting to set up a little bit would be the Hollenbach carver, and you would adapt it the same way, having the point of the carver flared out. Here you would adapt it so the middle of your carver is flared out, okay? And then again, don't go too far in when you're burnishing the mesial and distal sides, because then you'll surely end up taking some of your height of contour away, okay? So when you're finished there, give it another little rinse, and then you're going to burnish it up. But if it's still not set enough, what I would recommend you do is fill out your paperwork and then go back to burnish it. That way then you won't sink the filling in or scratch it up. So using your large ball burnisher would be a good choice, and adapt it around and just kind of burnish the cavo surface margins. Burnish lightly. If you push real hard right here in the middle, you're going to sink your filling in. So be gentle when you're burnishing it. When it starts setting up, it'll get shiny as you go over it with your instrument. But ideally, you want to make sure that all of your margins are nicely burnished so that you don't get any margins leaking anywhere in the future. Okay? So, let me see if I can let you see this a little bit better. No. Kind of hard to see, but that's all it takes. But you got to do those 5 movements from the occlusal wall, gingival wall, distal, mesial, and then freehand. Okay, 5 motions. All right, good luck when you start doing your restoration.